Just a couple logistical things before I have two people come up and introduce Geshe Michael and Lama Christie. Please turn off your cell phones now, if you could. Please, if there's anybody that you know that might want to be coming to this teaching, you're not required to go to both nights. So if you see a friend tomorrow, please ask them to come back. I apologize for being a little dark out front, but we couldn't do anything about that. And I think logistically that's sort of about it. As long as your cell phones are off, we're good. So Melissa and Shashadri are going to introduce Geshe Michael and Lama Christie.
Welcome, everyone.
Hi. This is cool. I love the part where term starts and all these beautiful faces start coming down to Tucson. You know, I like this. This is cool. So thanks for coming back.
And there's a lot of new people here tonight, and so really welcome. Thank you for coming out, finding this place because it's not so easy to find, and joining us for a beautiful evening with some very special people who, they've dedicated their lives to making sure that we get the information and knowledge that we need to improve ourselves beyond even our normal capacity. So thank you. You're in for a treat.
If you were there at the last Spiritual Partners talk, I think one of the things that I had said was it's amazing how these ancient texts are coming back, the ones which are apparently lost. So I think part of it is us coming here and asking the Holy Masters to teach us as well. So thank you for doing that. So in the way of introduction, how many of you do not know who Geshe Michael is? Okay. Oh, he was the first American to have earned the Geshe title, and I'm told it's like a PhD in Buddhism. He studied for over 20 years at a monastery in New Jersey and in India. And he's written several books on Buddhism. And one of the things that I particularly love about Geshe is how he takes these scriptures and then he puts them in a language that someone like me can understand and apply to my day-to-day life. So that's okay. That's me.
And there's also Lama Christie McNally, and she's an angel. That's the best way to describe her. She is also a beautiful yogini, and I would love to master half of the things she can do on a yoga mat. But she's also an author. She's also completed the 3-year, 3-month, 3-day silent retreat. And she's getting more and more well-known, especially in Asia. They are they are packing in the houses in Asia. But they're the most amazing teachers you'll ever meet, and we're very, very happy to have them. So Lama Christie and Geshe Michael Roach, please come and teach.
We've been away for 3 months, and so we're not used to teaching anymore. So I told her she has to go first.
When in doubt, do a meditation. So we'll start just by closing our eyes together and watching our breath. Place your mind at the very tip of your nose. Hold it there, just watching the air as it slowly passes outside your body and then back in. Try to let go of any other thoughts beneath the surface. Just fully let your mind go into this one tiny point of focus without any other thoughts, without any other worries. just be there. Okay, you can open your eyes.
Okay. I don't know. The mic's a little funny. The mic's going like this. Yeah. Maybe it's a battery, I think. There you go. But I guess about 3 years now, we've been giving these talks. Yeah.
Thank you.
About 3 years we've been giving these talks, and we call them spiritual partners. And they're about how to have a partner, how to be happy with a partner. And I think sometimes spiritual partner is maybe a bad name because it gets all mushy and gushy, like you have to go to church with them or something like that. And sometimes I'm not sure if it's the right word, but what we mean by spiritual partners is not so much that you have to go be spiritual together and that, you walk down the street and you look like you have halos or something like that. It's not like that. It's that you use spiritual means to succeed in your partnership, rather than maybe psychological means or emotional means or like that. And mainly what we're talking about is karma. Like you approach your relationship with an understanding of karma, and then you use karma to make your relationship successful. And I think in both of our cases, it comes from, both of us came from broken homes, both of us came from homes that broke up early and badly. And so I think we were hesitant to get into a relationship, and then, but our lamas encouraged us, and they taught us how to use like ancient Tibetan methods based on karma. So we've been giving these talks, and it's worked for us. We just realized we've just celebrated our 10th anniversary of being of being blessed by our lamas to practice together, and it's an amazing thing. It's a good thing. I think early in our lives it would have been unthinkable. So this is the 7th talk that we've given about spiritual partners. And what we're doing is slowly, we give a talk one time, and then friends of ours in different cities, like in New York or other places, they go and give the same talk in their own way. So two partners will go give a talk about the same subject, but in their own way. And then slowly that is spreading. And we just finished a book about how to start with a spiritual partner. And I think it's in the publishers now. And then what we'd hope to do is maybe develop a series of training how to be a spiritual partner, like that. So as you listen, consider the possibility that maybe one day you could be teaching these things to others yourself. And that's how we approach all the teachings we give. We are hoping that a certain number of people in the audience, even if you can't even imagine yourself sitting up here giving a spiritual partner talk. Well, we couldn't either not so long ago. So in the back of your mind, in the back of your heart, think, how could I present that? Or how could I help someone with what I'm listening to? Because the intention to teach someone else something important you learn spiritually makes it work for you. You see, even just the dream that maybe one day you could sit in, what do they call it, Express coffee shop, and help someone with what you hear tonight and tomorrow. Just the dim intention, the thought that maybe one day you might do that, makes it work for you stronger. Then the listening is different, because you're listening as someone who will become a teacher. And we think that's how you should listen. Okay? So tonight, the name of the talk is Kleshas. Say Klesha. Klesha. And we always have these huge fights about what we're going to call a talk. Like, we just did a 2-month retreat, silent retreat. So during the retreat, I planned the whole talk out in my head. And then I inform her on the way to the airport in the other country what we're going to talk about. And she has also planned the whole talk out in her head. And she has a whole different talk in her head, And so there's always this sort of tense drive to the airport as we both reveal what the talk is going to be about. And then, we decided Klesha. So what does Klesha mean? The reason we chose the foreign word is that there is no good English word. It's a really different idea that we don't have in English, So what is a Klesha? This is how I got to know Klesha. I stayed with my Lama for, 20 years in the same house. This old, cranky Tibetan Lama, And so, he would tell me, go out and water the flowers. I'd say, I don't even like flowers, but you can't say that to an old Lama. You say, okay, yes, master, and you bow, and you make a face. You make sure he sees your face, And then he says, in 2 hours, I want you to do it for 2 hours, And you're like, I came here to learn Tibetan ancient scriptures. I didn't come here to water your flowers, But then he looks at you and he says, you're having a klesha attack, And you're like, me? Yeah, you're having a klesha attack. Right now, you're having a klesha attack, And then you're like, what's a klesha? He says, klesha, nyomong. Say nyomong. Nyomong. You're having a nyomong attack. What's that? It's a klesha attack. It's the same thing. Then they slowly teach you what's a nyomong. What do you like better, nyomong or klesha? How many people vote for klesha? Oh, she was right. They say if a monkey bangs on a typewriter for 3 hours, one word will come out. Right. Anyway, here's what a klesha is. Klesha is, what? Rangyura Dembe Kansaki Shegyu Mashiwachepe Sambasamjung. They make us memorize it in the monastery. Rangyundengi Kansak means the person who has it. Rangi Shegyu Mashiwachepa. It ruins the peace of mind of the person who has it. The definition of a klesha in the ancient books is any thought which ruins the peace of mind of a person who has it. And then the author that we're using tonight, who is the heart teacher of the present Dalai Lama, who was also the heart teacher of our heart teacher, Pabonko Rinpoche. So we're using a book by him. And he adds Madhulor Chepa. Madhulor Chepa means throws you off balance, ruins your composure. So any thought which comes into your mind and ruins your peace of mind is a klesha, And we've struggled for years to find an English word. And some people started out, they said delusional thought, but I don't think it's really delusion, right? So delusion is like I'm Napoleon or like that. It's not like an upsetting thought in the mind, right? And then later people came up with mental affliction, because klesha, the root klesh means to bug somebody. Klesh means to bug somebody, to bother somebody. So somebody came up with mental affliction, but it's like mental affliction. It's still 5 syllables, Some people say bad thoughts, some people say negative thought. But I don't know. You can have a bad thought that doesn't upset you, and you can have an upsetting thought that's maybe not so bad. I don't know. So we decided to call it what? Klesha. We just decided, let's stick with klesha. And then you have a new word for a new thing, right? And that's the big deal. When you start out studying kleshas, what the book always says is, you're trying to recognize what's a klesha. Like your big job in life, try to identify a klesha that when it comes in your mind. You see? Because the problem with kleshas is when you get one, it just goes and you follow it and you don't know you're in trouble. And they say in the book, if you read the book, I think it's the second page. Yeah, page 2. It says, look, if you're fighting in a battle, right, and you're walking down a road and some guy jumps out from behind a tree, you better know what the enemy's uniform looks like. You know, like if you don't know if that's the enemy's uniform or the good guy's uniform, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? He's going to shoot you. Okay? Like fast. You don't have time to sit there and ask, are you, is that uniform, is that the enemy uniform? Or he's just going to pull out his gun and shoot you. And a klesha is the same way. You know, if you don't know what a klesha looks like, then the minute it pops up in your mind, you have 3 seconds to do something, or it will kill you. You see? You have a split second to take an action. And if you don't, you're washed under by this klesha. Then you're in a klesha attack. It just takes over. You know? This negative thought. Then your mind, this is the weird thing about kleshas. This is the nasty thing about kleshas. The minute a klesha is fully formed in your mind, you're helpless. You can't do anything then. It's too late. Then you're just swept away by the klesha. For example, anger. You know, anger, you have about 5 seconds to 15 seconds to act. When you start getting upset and you start feeling your heart pump faster and you start to get angry, you have like 15 seconds to act. After that, it sweeps you. It sweeps you away. That's a klesha. So the idea is the very first rule of klesha management. Okay? And trust me, that's what a Buddhist does all day long. That's our life. That's our practice. Fighting with our kleshas. Fighting the kleshas. That's your whole life. You know? Why? Kleshas are what make you unhappy. That's what they do. That's their definition. You know? They make you sad. They make you grumpy. They make your life not worth living. Right? So the more kleshas rule your mind, then the more life is not worth living. Right? And the more you can beat them, like there's a state, the word nirvana and the word drachomba or arhat. Arhat means he or she who has destroyed the enemy. And the enemy is your kleshas, right? So to reach nirvana and to destroy your kleshas, it's the same thing. So that a lot of time they don't call it klesha management. They say, kill them, kill the enemy. Who's the enemy? Your own negativity, your own negative thoughts, you see? So to kill the enemy, what? You got to know what his uniform is, you know? You got to know how he dresses. You have to be able to recognize him within 15 seconds. You know, and the game is all about that. Can you diagnose your own mental illness within 15 seconds of it coming up in your heart? You know, and why? Then we get into what we call nyembo. Say nyembo. Nyembo means antidote. Nyembo means counterstep. Nyembo means, I don't know, what do they call it when you get bitten by a rattlesnake? It's the anti-venom. It's the anti-venom. We were just in Mexico. We just did a nice retreat in Mexico. And this house is very interesting. There's no walls. It has no walls. It's in the jungle. And the 2 bedrooms have doors, but the rest of the house has no walls. Like the kitchen and the living room is just open. You know, so it's fun. It has a ceiling. It's really fun, but these scorpions are like wandering around all the time. And so we asked this doctor, you know, what happens when a scorpion bites you? He says, oh, you got to get the antivenom within like X minutes or it's not too much fun, you know. And so with a klesha, you have to apply the antivenom within about half a minute, right, of it coming up. When anger starts, you have like 30 seconds to apply the antivenom, right? You don't know which antivenom to apply if you don't recognize that which klesha you're having. Okay? Why? There's 26 major, we call important kleshas. Okay? 26 important kleshas. 6 of those are called the big ones, the big 6. The sixth of them has 5. This is a real Buddhist teaching, which makes 10. Now, there are 10 major kleshas. There are 10 principal kleshas that you have to know about. Why? Once you get one of those kleshas, you're swept under faster and you do more bad stuff. You make more bad karma. Like there are sort of lighter kleshas where you don't collect bad karma quite so fast. And then there are major kleshas where if you get one of those and you don't apply the anti-venom within 30 seconds successfully, then you're swept. You're swept away. And then the next 10 minutes is just piles of bad karma. Just big bunches of bad karma that basically wipe out all your efforts for the last week. You see what I mean? So if you can't recognize a klesha coming up in your own heart, you don't know which antidote to apply. You don't know, you don't give rattlesnake anti-venom to a person who just got bitten by a scorpion, right? You have to apply the right antidote. And so you got to we call it a toolkit. So basically you got to have 26 different tools in your klesha management toolkit. And then you have to be ready. The minute this klesha comes up, you grab in the toolkit and you apply the right tool to your own heart, right? And if you don't, then you're just swept away. It just take you like a flood. You can't fight it. After about half a minute, you can't fight it anymore. It seems good to be angry after about half a minute. It seems right to be angry because you're angry. You're already angry, right? Anger makes you think anger is good. So you have such a short time. So what we're going to do, we're going to spend 2 nights on the study of how to kill a klesha instantly. How to shoot a klesha within half a minute of it coming up. What are the tips? What are the methods? What are the skills that have been developed for 2,500 years? Because Buddhism is basically all about how to stop your kleshas, right? So what are the skills that have been developed over the last 2,500 years by people like you and us who have been fighting kleshas for the last 24 hours, big time, I don't know, every time we start to give a spiritual partner talk, we have these klesha attacks. Like we went in Taiwan, we gave a talk to 1,000 people, and the morning before we had this big klesha attack, so we all have it. We all have kleshas. And then we have to, in these 2 nights, we'll just share the classical methods of fighting your kleshas, okay? Delivered by people who had just had a klesha attack this morning, So I guess in a way we're very intimately aware of our kleshas. And we're trying also as hard as you are. And people have tried for 2,000 years. And they have developed some methods. So we're just going to share some methods, and hopefully it will help us and maybe help you too. Okay.
Hi. So now the big question is, did Geshe Michael and Lama Christie just trick you into coming here in order to talk about your kleshas, or does this have anything at all to do with spiritual partners? Well, it does. It does. There's a big connection, and that's my part. So, let's see. As Geshe said, this year, 2008, marks some sort of big 10-year anniversary where Geshe Michael and I have not left each other's side for 10 years. It's a little bit strange. Our practice is a little bit strange because we don't, go out of the room from each other for 10 years. I mean, imagine 10 years next to your spiritual partner. It's it's quite an accomplishment. I want you guys to I appreciate the effort that has gone into this. Now, that was a challenge. It was definitely challenging. I mean, yes, it was challenging. He would be the first to tell you. He is very challenging. Now, well, then comes the question, why did they do that? You know, I was like, I mean, what's the point? You know, what are they trying to accomplish with this crazy feat of spiritual hardship, not leaving each other's side? And well, one of the very interesting things about this relationship where you actually can't leave somebody else's physical presence is I was always of the mentality, if something gets a little too uncomfortable or a little too hard, I'll just leave the room, or maybe I'll leave the city, or maybe even the country. You know, like that's how I dealt with my problems. I just left. So then suddenly I can't leave anymore. And suddenly the mental afflictions start to come up in my heart. And I don't have another room to go to. I don't have another city to go to because I've made this commitment. I'm going to stay next to my spiritual partner and we're going to work it out. You know, what does that mean? Work it out. We're going to help each other get through our mental afflictions when they rise. You know, so it was very hardcore, I guess you could put it, you know. It was like you had nowhere to run. Your mental afflictions were looking you in the face in the form of this other person. Because you can lie to yourself, right? You can say, I'm not angry. Or, you know, I don't have a problem. When you're in the other room, it's very easy. Or you could just not think about it anymore. You could just kind of think about something else, do something else, get involved with something else. But if somebody is right next to you and they are reflecting you like a mirror, they are just sitting there reflecting your own mental affliction, you can't hide from yourself anymore. You have to deal with it. So in a way, you know, your spiritual partnership, and again, what Geshe Michael is saying about what is a spiritual partnership, it's using your relationship to further yourself as a person. It's using your relationship to grow spiritually. Does the other person even have to read the reading about the kleshas? No. They don't even have to know about it. All you have to do is use the relationship in your own mind to spiritually grow, right? So, you know, I was just in Los Angeles visiting my parents. Of course, we were there together because, as I just explained, we can't leave each other's side. You should see when we fly Southwest and they don't have seats together, you know, and we have to sit together on the plane and we're like, we've got to get A. Have you flown Southwest? You know, you have to get the A because we have to sit together. And if not, we're going to have this very uncomfortable thing of, well, you see, could you just scoot over a little bit because we have to sit together and, you know, it's some spiritual thing. And then everybody on the plane thinks you're weird. Maybe you have to leave the plane, you know, I mean, it's very, so we're like, get there on time, get there on time. Now you can check in, you can do it, you know, 24 hours before you can get, then you don't even have to be on time. You can still get A. It's very exciting. So, anyway, we flew Southwest to go see my parents. And, I mean, I don't know what they're doing in their mind because I can't read their minds, but for all appearances, it doesn't look like my father and his wife are practicing a spiritual partnership, right? It looks like they're living, they're trying to not rock the boat as much as possible. You know, they're living a life where let's make everybody comfortable. And then I started to think about it and I started to realize that in a way, when you're talking about the difference between a normal partnership and a spiritual partnership, it's the difference between deciding on comfort versus risk. You know, should I be comfortable and so I could die quietly with my partner at the end of it all, so I could watch the relationship slowly start to fade and fall apart? Or while I'm comfortable, you know, while I'm not taking any risks, while I'm not looking my mental afflictions in the face? Or should I take a risk? Should I actually use my spiritual partnership to better myself? Should I actually put myself out there on a limb and give my partner the power to help me change as a person, because that's a risk, right? That's a risk. You give your partner a certain amount of power and you feel a little bit afraid because, we've always been taught of like equality and balance and this and that, but no, you're just surrendering. You're like, no, I need to change here. I have all these kleshas. I have all these nyomons. I have all these mental afflictions in my mind, and you're the one that can help me purify my heart. You're the one that can help me change. And please help me change. And you take a risk, right? The reason you are attracted to your partner in the first place is because your partner has a kind of wisdom that you don't have, right? Like you were attracted to something that you needed to learn from them in the beginning. But we forget about that in our day-to-day lives. And we just want comfort. And we sacrifice the growth and the learning process because we want comfort. Don't settle for the comfortable. Your heart leapt to them because they had something to teach you. It just like overtook you, this feeling, and you need to follow it all the way through in order to get the teaching complete. You need to let them teach you how to purify yourself. You need to let them help you become the person you always wanted to be. Because they can do that. Your partner can do that. I said your partner was a mirror. Our faults are really hard to see for ourselves. It's like you can't see your own face unless you look in a mirror, right? It's so odd. We can't even see our own face. If we didn't have mirrors, we wouldn't know what we look like. If we didn't have spiritual partners, we wouldn't know what our hearts looked like. You see? Because we can't see inside of our own hearts. We're too enmeshed in it. We're too embroiled in it. We cannot be objective about it. So we need to bounce it off someone else. We need to see through their eyes. We need to look in their eyes and look at them seeing us, and then see what they see in us, and then see what needs to be changed. Okay, I have to go through the big 10 mental kleshas. Not allowed to call them anything else. The first one is duchak. Say duchak. Duchak means desire. And this is like, we'll talk about it. Then kongcho. Kongcho is anger. Everybody knows what anger is, right? Then skip to number 4, marikpa. Marikpa. Come on, not everybody's saying it. There's more people in here than that. Marikpa. There we go. That means ignorance. And those are the big 3. Desire, anger, and ignorance are like the big 3, and then everything else stems out from that. Then ngagya. Ngagya means literally means I am king. It's the word in Tibetan for pride. So you can understand that. Tetsom. Tetsom means lazy doubts. It means avoiding the issue, basically. You're not sure about something, but you don't really want to check and find out if it's true. Then the last one is tawa. Tawa has 5 subcategories. This is very Gelugpa Buddhist. Everything has a category and a subcategory and a sub-subcategory. So there are 5 different views that are also considered kleshas. The first one is called jikta. Say jikta. Jikta, we translated it here as destruction view, and it's this very wrong idea of me and mine, and we'll talk about it later tonight. Then tata. Yeah. That one is extreme view, or you could say extreme views, because there's actually two in there. It's sort of an all or nothing thing, and we'll talk about that too. It's not following the middle way. Chokta means supremacy view, and this is probably my specialty. I'll probably be doing this tomorrow. We haven't actually worked out who's doing it, but I bet I'll get this one because it's just I'm so good at it. It means, no, I'm right. I'm right. Just thinking, just having this view, this constant view. No, I know I'm right. Even if you're not saying it to the other person, which is of course your partner, you're like, I'm right. You know, like in your mind, you're always thinking it, and that's me. Okay. The ninth one is a little bit long. Sutram dang tushuk choksen gitawa, but we'll just say sultu. And that means hardship view. And this is like thinking that suffering for suffering's sake is going to get you anywhere. Some people like this, that like to beat themselves up or put themselves in a position where they're constantly, And then the last one is lokta. And lokta is actively denying other correct views, such as, the laws of karma don't exist. That's an example. That's a lokta. So those are the 10, and we are going to talk about them first in terms of what they are in general, and secondly, how they relate to your partner and how you can use your partner to help you get rid of them. So that's going to be the talk for the next couple days. I think it's kind of cool. Anyway.
She said I was more qualified to do anger than desire today. So we'll skip to page 5. Okay. Say control. Sometimes they call shedang, say shedang. So look at the cover of your reading, okay? And this is a very famous depiction of the big 3 kleshas, okay? The worst 3 kleshas. And it's 2 different versions, we'll talk about it later. But which animal is anger? Yeah, it's the snake, okay? I mean, if you've been to Diamond Mountain and walked around a bit, you've met a rattlesnake and they just seem angry all the time, all right? And that's kongcho. That's anger, all right? He defines anger as you look at something or someone you don't like, and you start to get a feeling of hatred, and then you would like to hurt this person or this thing. So it's important to understand that anger can be focused at a person, but anger can also be focused at a traffic jam or a storm or like that. Anger can be focused at things, and anger can be focused at people. That's the first thing to understand. The essence of anger is the desire to escape an undesirable object. Okay? The essence of anger is the desire to avoid an undesirable object, right? Like in LA, we were just in LA, right? You gotta know the exits. You gotta know the exits, like if you're driving up 405 and you see a traffic jam ahead of Wilshire, you get off at Wilshire. You don't think anything. You just get off. Otherwise you're stuck there for like 2 hours, Like you gotta know how to avoid, right? And that's anger wants to avoid. So is it wrong to want to avoid something painful? No, that's not anger. In itself, it's not anger, right? It's not bad to want to avoid problems. If you see trouble, you get off. It's not like it's noble to be in a traffic jam for 2 hours, right? It's not like it's noble to be with a person who's yelling at you, right? It's not wrong to want to leave the room. That's not wrong, It's the second part of the definition here. You want to hurt them. On the way out of the room, you want to just throw something over the back of man, So it's not anger or hatred to want to avoid a bad thing. That's fine. People think Buddhists want to sit in the corner of the room and people chop with them machetes on their heads and they don't do anything. And they're so cool and collected. And it's not like that. Like, they don't like to have their head cut open either. It's not the point. It's good to want to avoid pain. It's how you avoid it. That's the question. You see? Does your heart speed up? Do you hate the other person? We were in a very nice yoga class yesterday. And the very nice teacher said, I was reading Martin Luther King's book. And Martin Luther King, and she went through this long quotation from Martin Luther King saying, you will hit us and we will love you. You will spit on us and we will love you back. You will take us out in a dirt road in the countryside and beat us up half dead, or you'll burn a cross in our lawns, but we will love you back and we will wear you down with our love. And in the end, you will also love. Like that. It was very beautiful. We won't hurt you back. We will never hurt you back, right? So that's the difference. Anger wants to hurt back. Anger wants to avoid, but anger wants to hurt back at the same time. So then anger rises in your heart, and you start saying things, and you start doing things. You might even strike another person, right? You might even attack someone's independent country that you're not at war with. You do things out of anger or impulse of anger, right? The main, every time a lama introduces a new klesha, they tell you what's wrong with that klesha. Like what particular thing about anger is so bad? What's so wrong about anger? Like you spend weeks or months or years developing a friendship with someone. And you give them things and you serve them, and when they're in trouble, you're there to help them, and you build a relationship of trust, right? Like over months and years, you do small sacrifices, you do small services, you do things, you earn their trust over months or years, and that's a real friend, right? Over hundreds of small interactions, they decide, I can trust this person, right? And they start to open up their heart to you. And then a friendship, two hearts open. We would say prana is exchanged. Some kind of clear water-like light is exchanged between the two hearts. And then you're friends, right? And it took months or years to open the two hearts to where they really trust each other, right? And then 5 minutes of a big fight, of a really angry fight, can burn it all, can burn months or years of effort to open the heart, right? So that's the worst thing about this klesha, right? It ruins years of good work, right? That's on an emotional level. Like, you can ruin a friendship in 10 minutes of a good fight, like a really nasty thing I always wanted to say to you fight that you didn't really want to say, that you didn't really believe. But you presented, this is what I always wanted to say about you, but I never said it, And you don't really believe it, but once it's said, like 2 years of friendship is gone, They'll always remember the last 5 minutes. They won't remember the 2 years, right? That's the power of anger. That's on an emotional level, okay? On a spiritual level, on a religious level, we spend our lives trying to make good karma. We spend our lives trying to serve others, trying to do the right thing, respect life, don't steal, don't commit adultery, don't lie to people, all in the hopes of building a paradise. I mean, that idea is shared between all the great religions, right? Do good and you will build a paradise. This is the essence of a religion. In Buddhism, the idea is that every time you do a good deed, you get like a what do you call it? You get an entry on your karmic credit card. Like there's this big credit card thing somewhere, and every time you do a good deed, then you get one more thing on your karmic credit card. Like you're building up slowly, painfully, tortuously slowly, because we can't do good things too much. You're building up this wimpy little credit card of good deeds, and the quality of anger on a subconscious level, on a very deep subconscious level, is that it burns all the seeds of good karma you have done in the last few months. 10 minutes of strong anger destroy all the good things, all the good thoughts, all the kind words you've done in the last few months. 10 minutes of anger has this power. It goes into the subconscious. It destroys karmic seeds, What does that mean to destroy a karmic seed? Like if you've been kind to someone, if you have served the sick consistently for 2 months, then you go do yoga, what will happen? You get very strong, very young. Your body gets younger. You feel stronger. Go do yoga after you've ignored the sick. What happens? You hurt your neck in the yoga. It doesn't help you. Yoga is neutral. Yoga is nothing. Yoga doesn't do anything. Yoga is a vehicle for the expression of your kindness. If you have been kind, then the yoga will make you strong and healthy and young. And if you've been unkind, and if you've ignored the sick, you'll walk into the yoga class and you'll hurt yourself. The first class, you'll hurt yourself, and it will stay with you, right? An injury, right? So what does anger do? If you've been serving the sick for months, and you're ready to go into a yoga class and get stronger and younger and better, thinner and all that, right? And if you get angry before the class, or in the class you're feeling competitive, which is a kind of anger, right? I hope they fall down out of the headstand that I can't do, and then you feel good, right? No, then that few thoughts of anger, they come into the storehouse of karma and they burn it. They burn all the work you did with the sick people, like that. They burn all the goodness out of your heart. Anger has this power, right? So how do you fight it? There's books written about this. There are whole books written about this. We should do it sometime. We should have like a 2-month retreat in Tucson and just do anger, because there are beautiful, beautiful books written about it. I thought, we're going to be talking about triggers, klesha triggers. What's a klesha trigger? You can guess, right? It's the things that set off a klesha, right? So I said before, once anger starts in your heart, you got 15 to 30 seconds to act. And then it sweeps your mind away. Then you think it's okay to be angry, right? You've got 15 to 30 seconds of clear mind, of truthful mind that can shut the anger down. After that, it sweeps you away. You think it's okay to be angry until 2 hours later. So you have this short time. If you know about karmic triggers, you buy yourself some time. Because you're watching out for the trigger and not the anger. Okay? So we got to study triggers. We're going to study karmic triggers. We're going to study klesha triggers, And there's a bunch. And we'll be throwing them in during the 2 nights. If you get to know the triggers that can set off your anger, you could buy an hour. You could buy 2 hours. You could buy a day before the anger comes, right? You could shut down the anger 24 hours before it comes. It's like a Southwest boarding pass. Get on the web 24 hours before, like that. So we're going to talk about triggers. For me personally, the trigger for anger, it's called dunzi. Say dunzi. Dunzi means, it's like conditions which create a weakness of the mind. It's, how do you call it? Vulnerability. It's a vulnerability to that klesha, okay? So what is the vulnerability for me? If I get tired, You know, if I didn't have enough sleep, that's a trigger, you see? And that happens 24 hours before. You see, like someone comes up to you and says you're stupid, and if you had enough rest, and you just did your yoga, you know, and you're eating well, and you didn't just have a piece of pumpkin pie from then you're just going to smile and say, yeah, okay, I'm stupid, you know. But if you're tired, you see, if you're vulnerable, if your klesha immune system is already weakened, right? And then somebody just intimates that you're stupid. You're like, I'm not stupid, you know, like that. So don't deal with anger after it happens. Deal with anger 24 hours before. You see? Realize that you don't want to burn up all your good karma. Realize that you don't want to blow all the friendships you took so long to open up those hearts, right? So then plan for your next klesha. Plan ahead for your next klesha. You know, and we do that now, you know, like we travel a lot for our work, right? Like we speak in different countries. So now we just have this rule. If we're on a flight overnight, we don't teach the next day. We don't see people the next day. Why? Because we'll get angry. Because we'll be tired. Right? We just have a rule, you know. The people who do the booking and all that, they know. They don't book a talk the day after an all-night flight. And then we got more sophisticated. We're not going to do any more all-night flights. You know what I mean? Get us on an all-day flight. Get us there before it's time to go to bed. Or we're not going to China to talk. You know, like that. And that's what they do now. And they plan. Why do we do that? Because we're lazy or you know, we can't sleep on the plane or something. It's not that. It's because we know we will fight the next day if we're up all night on the plane. You see what I mean? So that's just good klesha management. So now you're getting into klesha management. These triggers are all about klesha management. Okay? And then if you stay the 2 nights, you might get a teaching about not managing your kleshas, but shutting them down permanently. Okay? There's a difference, right? One is how to deal with your anger, how to deal with your bitterness, how to deal with your stress, right? The other is how never to be stressed, how never to have anger, how never to feel bitter at someone. You see, I mean, it's a difference, right? One is dealing with poo-poo. One is making sure it never happens in the first place. One is like the Kodamundi already came out of the jungle into your little Mexican cottage and pooped all over. And you have to go there with paper towel and clean it all, right? That's management of a klesha. The other thing is like, how do you just prevent them from ever coming? Like, is there a way to shut them down from the beginning? And I think we have to talk about both, right? Well, why don't you just teach us about how to shut down a klesha and we don't have to worry about klesha management? You got to be good at managing kleshas before you can shut them down. Because managing helps shut them down. Okay? So we're going to teach you both. So from my side, what I would share about anger is realize that anger and a lot of other kleshas just happen because you're tired and you don't feel 100%, right? So if you don't want to have those kleshas, so go to bed earlier, okay? Well, I can't. I'm too busy. Throw out your television, you know? Don't turn on the internet after 8 o'clock. Just make it a rule, you know? If you need to borrow Lama Christie to enforce these rules, you know, we can work out a deal. All right? Okay. Don't eat sugar. Don't have coffee after 7 or 5 or something like that. Okay? Like that. Klesha management. Okay.
Is this being recorded? After 7 or maybe 5, did I hear? Really? Did I hear that? I don't have to police it at all. I just play the tape. Geshe Michael says, this will be so much fun at Diamond Mountain, right? Okay. Those of you who don't know, he just, See, well, we're talking about the next klesha, which is on page 4. It's desire. And Geshe Michael pretends to have this incredible craving for things like sugar. Things with sugar. Lots of sugar all the time. No matter what time of day it is, no matter if it won't get him to sleep for hours, no matter if the next day after we don't sleep we have a huge teaching that we need to have sleep for, it doesn't matter. You know, the sugar just sort of draws his eyes and he doesn't think about anything else. It's just like, I have to have that now, you know. And that's desire, I guess. That's a good example. It's not wrong to have a nice chocolate cake every once in a while, right? It's not wrong to get the things that you want. Everybody wants something. I mean, this whole world gets up. Like, the reason you get out of bed, the reason you step your foot out of your bed every single day in the morning is because you want something. Right? You want something and you think you're going to get it, or else you would stay in bed. Right? And so you think you have a good chance, a pretty good chance of getting the thing that you were wanting when you woke up that morning, and so you actually get out of bed because you're going to go try to get it. And this is like our whole world is based on driven by the things that we want. You know, every single car that you see on the street going past you is driving for the same purpose. It's all about getting something that they want. You know, we don't go anywhere. We don't set foot anywhere. We don't do anything without this innate desire kind of fueling us, right? So is that a bad thing? Should I just stay in bed? No, I mean, there are really good desires. There are really, really good desires, like the desire to reach a state beyond all pain. I want that. You know, I really want that. The desire to see my world totally purely so I don't have to see anybody else in pain. That would be really nice. I mean, I just went home to my family. That would be really nice. No, I mean, my dad and mom are both getting older. They have physical problems now, you know. They have high blood pressure. They're taking sleeping pills. My dad, two chambers of his heart just stopped working. You know, I want him to get better. I want that. You know, so is that a mental affliction? Is that a klesha called desire? No. Like, there are good things to want, and we are driven by them. And we are driven by our passions for things. We are driven by our love for people around us. We are driven to take care of them. And these are all beautiful, good things. So what's the difference between that and some kind of klesha that we call desire? Because we're using the same word, and that's a little bit tricky, you know? What's the difference? This kind of desire, the wrong kind of desire, will hurt you. It will hurt you. It'll maybe now, maybe later, it will hurt you. Every single one of these kleshas, the reason that they're kleshas is because they hurt you. Yeah, they might also hurt somebody else in the process too, but that hurts you. Every single one of them, like somebody who wants chocolate cake, but maybe they're diabetic. Maybe they're really diabetic, and they know that last chocolate cake could be the last thing they ever eat. You know? Like, that hurts them. Then that's the desire that hurts them. You know, so, what is a desire that hurts you? It's a desire, it's when you are so impelled by what you want that you might hurt somebody else to get it. Or you might hurt yourself to get it. Like in the case of the diabetic, you're hurting yourself. In the case of, I don't know, we're talking about spiritual partnerships. Maybe adultery, you know? You so want that person, but so who cares if they're involved with somebody else? Right? You so want it that you don't care that you're going to hurt two other people and yourself in the process to get it. And that's a negative kind of desire, right? Where like you are going to cause yourself pain. You are going to cause somebody else pain. So it's a desire where you're going to do something without thinking of the consequences of what you do. And it stems from not knowing where things come from. It stems from not knowing where to really get things. Everybody, I recognize almost every single person in this entire room. And so you've all been here before. You've all been to these spiritual partnerships before. You all know the answer. You know, how do you get the partner of your dreams? Is it by stealing somebody else's partner? That's like the exact opposite thing, right? That's the exact way to push away the partner of your dreams forever. So it's with the anger and with the desire comes a word before that, and that's ignorance. Ignorant desire, ignorant anger. Like to have a desire based on thinking there is something external to you, something that you are not projecting, something that you could take and have for yours if you stole it, right? That's an ignorant kind of desire. Versus an intelligent kind of desire which understands where the world comes from. It understands that every single thing that I see is a projection of my own mind. The reason I see beautiful things is because I have given beautiful things to others. The reason I see pure things is because I have been pure. So how do I want my world to be? You know, and so you figure out karmically how to get the thing you want. And that's a correct desire, and that has nothing to do with klesha. Right? So it's a big difference. You have to distinguish between the two of them. There are some very wrong misconceptions about Buddhism, you know, where like the monks, they don't like anything and they just sit in a cave and they don't get anything they want and they're happy. Like, you know, but they don't smile either. They're just happy. And that's not true, you know? I mean, if you are really good at this karma and emptiness thing, things would be pouring into you that you didn't even ask for, but you wanted, you know, somehow, like magically, like everything that you want would come to you if you were actually living by the rules of karma and emptiness, because that's the way the world works, right? So, how do we apply this to in a practical way to dealing on a day-to-day basis with a spiritual partner? Like, what is it? How are they going to help us with this? And what is it we need to watch out for on a day-to-day basis, on a hour-to-hour, minute-by-minute basis, right? We were talking about it, and we said, you know, when we catch ourselves having a klesha attack that has to do with desire, a lot of it has to do with expectation. A lot of it has to do with, well, for example, last day I was in Los Angeles. You know, my dad, he has this heart problem, and he asked me, could you show me some yoga poses that I could do to help with this and with my back, right? So I really wanted to do that. But we ran out of time, right? We ran out of time. And Geshe Michael's like, we don't have any time. We can't do the yoga poses. We have to get to the airport. We're going to be late. Gotta go. You know, and he gets kind of nervous because I'm always the one making him run through the airport at the last minute. You know, I was like, we've got the A thing. We can be a little late, you know. He's like, no, we gotta go now. You know, and so, like, you catch yourself. like you were counting on doing. And it might even be a good thing. You see, like my dad, teaching yoga to my dad who has a heart problem, who has a back problem. That's a great thing. That's a holy thing. That's a pure thing. You should collect good karma for your parents. They gave you so much. And so all of this is great karma, but then there's this little mental affliction when it's not happening. In my heart, I'm like, I was counting on that, you know? And it's that expectation. You plan something. You plan something that you want and you think you're going to get it, and then it gets ripped out from under you. And then you're like, mad, right? So the desire actually starts to lead into anger. Look at the front cover. See the first picture? So we know what the snake is. What's the rooster? Desire. What's the pig? Okay, so they're kind of feeding each other. In this particular picture on the top, you can see that the pig leads to the rooster, leads to the snake. So I have some kind of ignorance about where does time to help your dad with yoga come from? Right? I have a kind of ignorance about that. I think it comes from Geshe Michael letting me stay 10 minutes more in the house. Right? So I think it's coming from somewhere else besides me. And then I have some kind of desire. I have some kind of ignorant desire. And then it leads right away into anger. You see, and they multiply but on themselves. They start cascading, and it's like this terrible wheel, and they call it a samsara, right? You can't get out. And then you're just pissed off at your partner on the drive to the airport, right? And that's, I wasn't really, but I wrote him an email the next day. I described the poses. It wasn't as good, but it was pretty good. So that's some kind of thing that you can watch out for, some kind of trigger. You know, watch your expectations, especially with your partner, and watch like blaming your partner for things that don't work out, right? That you want. I think a good antidote to that feeling of, I wanted this and it didn't happen. You know, that kind of like temper tantrum baby kind of wah, desire, pout thing that I tend to do when I'm having the klesha is grace. There's some kind of grace involved. When you're practicing and you're living in a spiritual way with your partner, like I said, doesn't have to be with a holy Geshe Michael monk red robe thing. They don't even have to be Buddhist. They don't even have to know what you're doing. But when you are living in that way, when you are living by the laws of karma and emptiness, you have to accept that sometimes you are not going to be able to get what you want in the present moment. You haven't created the seeds for it in the past. If you understand the laws of cause and effect, if you understand karma and its consequences, you know that the only person responsible for a present moment where you're not getting what you want is you. No, it's not your partner. It's you. So you ride it out. You accept, okay, I'm not getting what I want. You handle that with grace, right? Some kind of grace. And you understand how to get what you want in the future. Like maybe you go over it in the car on the way to the airport. How could I have gotten the time that I wanted with my father? Maybe by giving my partner the time that he needed for his Jetson Kappa text earlier that day. Or maybe a couple days. Instead of hogging it all with my family, you know, and so you automatically think, what's the karmic cause for not getting what I want? And then you fix it in a karmic way. And it's a kind of grace where like, I don't need to have a temper tantrum. I don't need to get upset about not getting what I want because I know where it's coming from and I know how to fix it. And, it's not happening now, but it's going to happen in the future because I'm a spiritual partner, and I know how to work this. So, if you have some kind of, we talked about this, Geshe Michael talked about this for those of you who are in Diamond Mountain at the business course, and I just love this subject. There are these things in Tibetan scriptures called wheel emperors. Okay, and there's the gold wheel emperor. And actually, the wheel emperors, what the wheels are, it's their spaceships. Isn't that cool? Like emperors with spaceships in Tibet in I don't know, the 1600s? Like they had quite an imagination or these people actually existed. You guys take your pick. But there's a gold wheel emperor. He rides around on a golden spaceship and he gets everything he wants. All the time without even having to ask. So he comes to a planet and they say, please, all the people on the planet say, please. And they get on their knees and they say, will you be the king of this world? And he says, okay, and it's really easy. But then there's a silver wheel emperor. Silver wheel emperor has a silver spaceship. He doesn't have quite as good karma as the gold wheel emperor. So when he reaches another planet, he has to campaign. I would be a great king of the world, And he goes and he meets all the leaders and he convinces them. And then finally, eventually they make him king of the world. But he has to sell them on it. He doesn't, you see the difference, the karmic level? And then there's the bronze wheel emperor. He still has a pretty cool spaceship, but, he's not as cool as the other guys. He actually has to force people to make him king of the world. He goes to the planets and he conquers them. Because they won't listen to him. Because he knows he's the coolest, but they don't agree. And so by force, he makes himself the king of the world. And that's the difference in the 3 levels of karma that these people have. If you are in a spiritual partnership and you are not at the gold level yet, say you have a spiritual partner and they're almost perfect, but there's this one tiny small problem. They are incredibly grumpy in the mornings. You try and smile at them and they look away, or maybe they make this terrible face at you. I'm talking about myself, by the way. It's just horrible waking up to them in the morning. And so you're like, yeah, I'm at silver. Okay. And you ride it out. You see this grace. You don't complain why can't you be more cheerful in the morning, Christy? No, you don't complain about that. You yourself try to be more cheerful and you plant the karmic seeds. Is it getting better, by the way? That was like a so-so. I'm in the front of a bunch of people I can't really say. Okay, so in some respects, we're still on the silver level. Anyway, the idea is you can't force it. You can't force your way up to the gold emperor level. You have to be at the karmic level you're at in the present moment and then work towards what you want. And there's a certain kind of grace in that. There's a certain kind of grace in just, saying, this is where I'm at. This is what my karma has brought me, and let's see what we can make of it. And let's see what beauty is inside this silver spaceship. Right? Okay. Yeah?
We're going to take a break, but I'm going to pitch you something first, which is always the case. I was thinking how to introduce it, but I thought of this. This one thing happened 15 years ago in New York. And we were teaching, and we got up, and we said one sentence about the karma of cancer, breast cancer in particular, because my mom died from it. And we said one sentence about that I had heard in the monastery. One day I heard it in the monastery. Like 20 years ago, I heard this one sentence in the monastery. So I repeated it in a teaching. And there was a woman there who had breast cancer, a very dear friend. And she, out of the whole talk, of course, she grabbed that one sentence and she used it. And she's very healthy now. Total remission. The thing is totally gone. And she still comes up to me, obviously, every time and says, that was so amazing. Where did you hear that? I said, I was in the monastery like 20 years ago and somebody said that sentence and I never forgot it, And the idea is that in the Tibetan monasteries, there are things going on that you can't imagine, There are things going on that you can't imagine, And you don't really see them unless you hang out there for a while and then you're in a room with somebody and something really miraculous happens. And things like that happen, right? So we had this idea 6 years ago, 5 years ago. We decided we're going to pick young people from our university. We're going to pick 10 young people every year, and we're going to send them to the monastery and just dump them there for a month. They can't get out, actually. We just send them over there. They'll go into the monastery. And our dream is that, and it's happening, they will hear the one sentence in the monastery. Somebody who's now 20, like I was 20, long ago, they will hear some one thing, and they might save a person's life with it. You know what I mean? That's our dream. That's our idea. Okay? So we don't have any money at all. We don't charge anything for the university. The university is free. I just found out her sister's paying. Can I say? Her dad's putting out. No. Okay. Well, anyway, for a small college in Northern California, her dad is going into bankruptcy to pay this each semester, And no, it's crazy now, but we just give it to them for free, right? So nobody has any money. So what we do every year, we do bake sales, not to raise desire, but just to raise money. And so we have a bake sale outside, and I want to show you how it works. You don't pay $2 for a piece of pumpkin pie. You pay $20 for a piece of pumpkin pie before everybody else gets to it, okay? Rebecca's in charge of the program. I'd like to thank her. Yeah.
7 or even 5.
No. I'd like to thank Rebecca for doing the program. So just do it, okay? And don't think it's crazy. It's not crazy. It's one of the young people, they just got back, by the way. They all got diarrhea. One got typhoid. That's okay. No, they will hear one thing, and they might change the world with it. So it's worth it, okay? So just go up there, take what you like, don't think about desire, and pay some crazy thing, and 100% goes for their airfare. Okay, so we'll take a break. One thing about the break, okay, is that if you'd like to come up and ask a personal question, or you just want to say hi, then please feel free to come up, and we'll probably have some kind of a line. We might not get through the whole line. That's a trick to get you back the next night. Okay, we'll start again. I'm sorry for the long break, but we've been out for 3 months and lots of exciting, we're going to Israel after this next semester and they're planning it and things like that. Okay. I get to do ignorance. I don't know why. We notice something that when you start talking about kleshas to people, they always think you're criticizing them. Especially if it's your partner. Okay, but that's page 7. Say marikpa. Marikpa. So we were talking about this thing where if you get anger, which is which animal? Snake. Then he's got another animal in his mouth, and he's got another animal in his mouth. So we could talk about desire, I have this plan for Thanksgiving, we're going to have pumpkin pie. We're going to go to this restaurant little restaurant in a village in Mexico, and we're going to have pumpkin pie, you know? So I go the day before and I pay 600 pesos in advance, you know? And Lama Christie agrees to the pumpkin pie, right? And I don't care what else they're serving. It's just, I just want to get the pumpkin pie, you know? And so we go in and we sit down, and it's on the beach, and the waves are going, and they bring up this Thanksgiving dinner, you know? We were going to throw the turkey out. And she says there's no green vegetables. And I said, but it's a village in Mexico, you know? They don't eat green vegetables. She's like, I can't stay here. I'm going to leave, you know? And I get what? I'm getting angry. Why? Because I don't get the pumpkin pie, right? So if you look on the cover, it's like, I'm still angry. I didn't get the pumpkin pie. If you look on here, like the snake is coming out of the rooster's mouth in the top picture, right? So the desire for the pumpkin pie turned into anger when I didn't get what I expected. But then the bottom picture is different. Why? Yeah. The snake and the rooster, which is a pigeon in the old days, meaning pigeons like to mate, so they have lots of desire. So the pigeon and the snake are both coming from where? The mouth of the pig. You see? So it's not a circle anymore. It's that anger and desire have a common root. Anger and desire. And in ancient Buddhist times, the bottom picture is considered more correct. You see? The bottom picture is considered more correct. And we got these off the web. We had to search the whole web, right? And the bottom one is correct. Ignorance gives birth to anger and desire. So we have to talk about ignorance. Like, what is ignorance? And how does that lead to the rooster and to the snake, right? Why is it that you get angry if you have ignorance? And if you don't have ignorance, you don't get angry, right? Because, by the way, this is the key. This is the real key. This is not how to deal with your kleshas. This is not how to manage your kleshas. This is how to stop them from the beginning. This is how to stop kleshas from ever starting from the beginning. Okay? Stop the what? Stop the pig. You know? Kill the pig. Don't go for the snake. Don't worry about the anger. Go for the source. Go for what caused the anger. Go for where the anger comes from. What is ignorance in this case, okay? We'll take the case of anger. We'll take this rare circumstance where your partner is in your face, saying something mean about you, okay? And they're like, I can't believe you walk out with a pumpkin pie, you know, for a vegetable, you know? And you're in their face, right? And if they have ignorance, what will they do? You're yelling at them. I can't believe you walk out on pumpkin pie for green beans that you're not going to get in Mexico. You know, and she didn't, by the way. And then what is she going to say if she has ignorance? Come on, you're like a Buddhist monk, Geshe. You're teaching desire next week. You know, and you can't handle that you lost the pumpkin pie. You know, you're freaking out about a pumpkin pie. How are you going to teach desire in Tucson? You know? You know? So the natural reaction when someone's in your face, the natural reaction when someone is angry at you, the natural reaction when someone says something unkind to you is what? You just give it right back to them. You give it right back to them. They blow up your building, you go attack their country. That's the way of the world for 50,000 years of civilized life. You know, someone hurts you, you gotta hurt them back. This is how we're trained for 50,000 years, and it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. If it worked, it would be okay to attack Iraq. If it worked, it would be okay. It doesn't work. It doesn't work to fight back when someone hurts you. You see, it's been 50,000 years, and people don't get it. You know, so what is ignorance here? What What is ignorance doing to your mind, right? Ignorance says, Geshe Michael is yelling at me because he's a bad person. Geshe Michael's yelling at me because he has desire. Right? Geshe Michael's yelling at me because he needs a pumpkin pie in a country where you can't get a pumpkin pie. You know? Like that. It's putting all the blame. It's putting everything. Geshe Michael is coming from Geshe Michael. Right? That's ignorance. Okay? So what is wisdom? What's the opposite of ignorance? What does wisdom say in this situation? This is what wisdom says. Geshe Michael appears to be freaking out about a pumpkin pie. You know? Geshe Michael seems to have an uncontrollable desire for a pumpkin pie. Enough to attack me. Which is right? That makes it wrong desire. The minute I attack someone for pumpkin pie, it's wrong desire. Up until the time I attack somebody, it's just noble. You know? Okay? But when I start to yell at Mama Christie, I didn't get the pumpkin pie. That's when I cross the line from okay desire to not okay desire. You see? That's when I cross the line. When I want to hurt someone or say something to get my pumpkin pie, then I've crossed over into ignorant desire. Why? That desire is ignorant because that desire thinks it didn't get pumpkin pie because of Lama Christie. Okay? That desire is blaming the other person. That desire is blaming Lama Christie that I didn't get pumpkin pie. According to the laws of karma, which Geshe Michael has taught constantly for 20 years, right? Why didn't he get his pumpkin pie? He didn't give pumpkin pie. He didn't give pumpkin pie. The last chance he had on a pumpkin pie, he just like snatched the whole thing, you know? Like that. Lama Christie's like, where'd that tin come from? You know? Like, you know, and I'm like, no, like this morning she had to move the juice so she could get some, you know, because I was drinking it all. You see what I mean? Like that. So, according to the laws of karma, the only reason I don't get pumpkin pie is that I did not share it in the past. If I had shared it, God couldn't have prevented me from getting pumpkin pie that night, much less Lama Christie. Okay? So if you don't have ignorance, if you have wisdom, right? If you have wisdom, and she sits down and says, we're leaving. I say, why? They don't have green peas. You know? Then what would wisdom say to her? Wisdom would whine a little bit, try to negotiate. You know, maybe they have spinach. Maybe they didn't have anything. She got up, you know? So then, and then wisdom says, okay, I blew it. You know, what she said, write it out. Write it out. I should have shared. I should have been more sharing, right? There's nothing to do in the present, okay? Share as much as you can in the next few days, right? That's all you can do. It's too late. It's too late. Karma says it's too late. Last thing. What about the natural reaction? What was the natural reaction? What was my reaction? What happened on Thanksgiving night in San Pancho, Nayarit, Mexico? What happened? What really happened? I got mad. I said some angry words, right? I did. I said some angry words, right? So that's ignorance talking. That's the pig, and out of the mouth is coming the snake. So what will happen from that? That's a natural reaction. That's an automatic reaction. But what will it lead to? Someone will scream at me. Someone will criticize me. It doesn't have anything to do with getting pumpkin pie. I didn't get any pumpkin pie. I just got screamed at 10 times later. You see what I mean? So don't trust your natural reaction. That's ignorant. That's the pig talking to you. The pig is whispering in your ear. Yell back, fight back. Go get him. You know, what do they call it? Keeping America safe. You know, like fight back. You know, no, that's the pig talking. That's the pig talking, and wisdom has to say, I hurt someone in the past. I was unkind to someone in the past. I will not do it again. In order to keep America safe, I will strictly not commit violence. Get it? In order to keep... some guy said that in this house before. That was spoken in this house before. 2,000 years ago. Somebody said the same thing, Someone hits you on this side of the face. What? Ask him if he'd like to hit you on this side of the face. It's insane. It's crazy. Someone hits you on... Turn the other cheek. Turn the other cheek means offer the other side of your face. You want to punch me here too? It's crazy. It's crazy. And it's absolutely wisest thing to do. And the pig is whispering in your ear and saying, fight back, punch back. Right? And wisdom says, just be kind. Unconditional, unilateral kindness back. And that's the only way to create a peace, right? Okay.
Somehow I always remember these stories a little bit differently. And Geshe tells them, like, I remember him actually getting the pie and eating the whole thing, and maybe some of my pie too. I don't know. It's just like, it sort of morphs when he gets up here. The stories. Anyway. So... you could do that too when you teach it. You've got a lineage, of like sort of morphing the stories. And then your partner will start to look at you out of the corner of their eye too, like, that didn't really happen. Or maybe it happened, but, yeah. Anyway. So, we are going to jump ahead to page 9, which is Jigta, or destruction view. Because in some of the old teachings, the great Tibetan masters equate ignorance with Jigta. They say it's the same thing. And then other Tibetan masters say, no, ignorance is more of a general, broad category, and then Jigta, or destruction view, is a very specific kind of ignorance that you carry around with you, an ignorance that has to do with how you perceive yourself. All right, so we're going to talk about that. First of all right, this is a mistaken view about me and mine, about who I think I am and what I think belongs to me, like my body, like my mind, right? So who is this me and what is mine? This is the issue in destruction view. Why do they call it destruction view? Because this is the view that kills us. This is the view that kills us. This is the view that makes us get old and die. And we'll talk about that. It's a specific kind of ignorance that has to do with how you are mistakenly holding on to a self-existent self. I'm me. What's wrong with saying I'm me and this is my body? What's wrong with that? Yes, I am different than Geshe Michael. I have white on, Geshe Michael has red on. I have blonde hair, Geshe Michael has brown hair. I'm sitting on the left, he's sitting on the right. Of course, for you, it's the opposite. But what's wrong with thinking that I am myself, a different person and a separate person from Geshe Michael? What's wrong with that? Where does this body of mine come from? Where does this body come from? Starts out, comes from one little sperm, one little egg, right? Belongs to two other people, right? Two different people. Was it mine? Was that my substance, or was it the substance of my mother and my father? So there's these two completely different substances coming together to make my body. So then what is my body composed of? My body is composed of cells that are made up of nutrients, that are made up of the food that I eat and the air that I breathe. What is mine about the broccoli that I ate last week? Like, then I'd have to say the broccoli was part of me, right? If I was talking about my body as me, and my body, it doesn't have any me in it. You see, it's all made up of different substances. And these substances are constantly changing. Your cells are constantly regenerating. Every 10, 12 years, you get an entirely new body. Like, no cell is the same. After a certain number of years, you're a completely different body. So why are you holding on to this body as me? It's this constantly changing thing of constantly foreign substances that has absolutely nothing to do with you. There are two perspectives, right? Yeah, it's my body. No, it's not my body. It's made up of completely different things. You can do the same with your mind. You could do the same with your mind. You have this perception of thinking that you are a solid self, that you are a solid kind of unchanging me, that I am Christy the same as I was Christy when I was 7 and 8 and 9 and 10, but that's not, who is that Christy? What is that little solid little ball thing that I think lodges deep within my heart that never changes? There is no such thing. There is only the constantly shifting perceptions of my thoughts, constantly changing thoughts. And those thoughts, can I even control them? Are those thoughts me? If I could control my thoughts, I would never have an unhappy day, ever. I would never have an unhappy moment. I would think only happy thoughts. But can we do that? No. We can't do that. We can't control our thoughts. Our thoughts are coming from somewhere else. They're coming from someone else. They're coming from the me of the past that planted those seeds. Right? Our thoughts are ripening in our minds in the present, and we cannot control them. In the same way that we can't control not being able to teach Dad yoga because we had to go to the airport, we also cannot control the thoughts that are coming up in our mind in the present moment. So you're going to call those me? You don't even have any control over them. You know, just random thoughts popping up. Like, how are you calling that me? So then, what's me besides my body or my mind? Like, what's left? What's left? What else is there? We hang on to it, though. We hang on to this, like, misperception of a solid me, that someone can do something to hurt, that someone can actually offend. Oh, they called me stupid, right? The reason why this view, it doesn't sound so bad. It sounds a little ethereal. It's like, wow, okay, I'm not my body, I'm not my mind. That's really far out, Lama Christie. What's your point? What are you going to do about that? The reason why it's considered a klesha, the reason why it's considered something that harms us is because it causes us to be selfish people. It causes us to be selfish. Thinking that we are self-existent causes us to be selfish, causes us to want things for me. The me that doesn't even exist. You see, so if you got rid of this view of a self-existent me, then you would get rid of the problem of trying to cater to this self-existent me all the time, right? I think like some child just kind of cheered there. Yes, yes. Okay. I don't know. In my perception, they were like, yay! So how do we use our partnership to kind of chip away at this wrong view? Chip away at the wrong view of a self-existent me so that we can get less selfish, so that we can start to love other people. You know, starting with our partner. How do we use it? We have to talk about the difference between real love versus like selfish demanding and bartering with your partner. Okay? We have I don't know, I think we have a lot of experience with both. I mean, I do have a lot of experience with both. I was trying to think of examples, like, I don't know, in our relationship, we have a lot of planning to do because we go to a lot of different countries and we go to a lot of places and our schedule's very, very tight. You know, I'm like bartering about, okay, we can see mom for 3 days. No, 2 days. Okay, mom for 2 days, but dad for 2 days too. No, I didn't agree with that. You know, I mean, we have to sort of, okay, I'll give you mom if you give me, you know, and like, you know, we're bartering, you know, we're bartering the time of the schedule because we have so little time and because we want to do so much that it turns into this game of I'll give you this if you give me that. Now, I don't know, that gets into, that's not really love, right? But a lot of partnerships end up going there. A lot of partnerships end up going there. Well, if you do this nice thing for me, I'll do this nice thing for you, and we'll come to an agreement, and then we'll be comfortable, and we won't take any risks. And they leave it at that. You know, they leave it at the bartering system of relationships. And they're not getting to love. They're not opening their hearts through the bartering system of relationships. You know, to open your heart, you actually have to take a step out of comfortable. And you have to risk yourself. And you have to want to better yourself. What's real love? You know, I want Geshe Michael to be completely happy all the time. I never want him to experience any kind of pain at all, ever, in this world. How do I do that? Well, I know that any kind of pain that I see Geshe Michael experiencing is a projection of my own mind, right? So I'm responsible for that. How do I take away the pain? How do I take away Geshe Michael, seeing Geshe Michael in pain ever? I get rid of my own pain. I get rid of my own kleshas that's caused the pain, right? So it comes right back down to getting rid of my own kleshas because I love him and I don't want to see him in pain ever. So then you start to realize that this separation, this me that you thought was so separate, you know, from this other person is in fact not at all separate, because every single pain that he experiences ever is the result of my mental afflictions. It's the result of my kleshas. And if I want to stop them, if I want to make him happy, I have to perfect myself. I have to make myself pure. And I have to take a risk to do that, right? And that's this kind of real love. That's what I think of when I think of real love. You know, I think of perfecting myself, getting rid of my kleshas, working really, really, really hard at getting rid of all of those kleshas for somebody else, so they don't have to experience them ever again. And then you start to think about this more and more, and the line between you and your partner starts to blur. It starts to get less and less defined until it's almost like you are one body instead of two. You know, you're one body with two different, with 4 arms and 4 legs and, you know, 2 different color hairs but you're one, right? Because you see that me, it's just a label. It's just a word. It's just something that you've lapped on to this parts. You could lap it on to different parts just as easily. You could say, this is me now. We are me now. Because the me doesn't really exist in the way you think it did. It's not really out here. It's another projection of your mind. And so you start to erode the border between the two of you, and you create a different me, a me that's bigger, a me that's going to help you open your heart. And then you can help each other with difficult times. You can help each other when you have kleshas. You know, it's not always that we have kleshas with each other. Like, you know, I mean, it's not always that my kleshas have to do with, oh, Geshe Michael gave it to me. You know, it's like sometimes I have other different ones. You know, and then like your other half, the other half of me can help me with that. And, you know, I have this terrible, terrible klesha sometimes when I think of people who are trying to attack Geshe Michael, because I think Geshe Michael is really pure and perfect, and they're doing it out of malice. And I start to get maybe angry about these people that are lashing out, and then I can, you know, I look to Geshe Michael and he's not angry at them. And I'm like, how does he do that? You know, I want to be like that. I want to be the kind of person that even if I'm doing the perfect right thing and then the people come and they attack me for it, I can still not be angry about it, and I can still smile and say, I hope they're successful. You know, and I hope they have a good life and love them too, you know, and then your partner, your other half is teaching you. And that's how we teach each other about our mental afflictions. You know, when one side of you is less strong than the other side about a certain thing, then you can lean on that side and get support and learn from them. Last thing, because I think it has to do with the line, I wanted to tell you a story of something that happened during retreat. We were in retreat in San Pancho, in a little village in Mexico. We were on top of a hill and no walls and just a little thatched roof. And we were doing a certain ritual. And it was at night, and I wanted to turn all the lights off and just have candles, you know, because I'm into that. And so we had these 2 candles, and it was hard to read the text, but that's okay because we were squinting and it was romantic. And yeah, I was so dumb, but anyway, these moths came, and they were fluttering around the candles, and they don't usually come. We had candles before and no moths had come, but that's because we had the other lights on as well, and so they weren't as drawn. But then we were in complete darkness with the candles, and so the moths came. There were these 2 moths, and they were circling around the candles. And then, of course, before we could put them out or turn the lights on, one of them dived into the flame and sank into the wax. And then the other one, I've never seen this before, just hung on to the glass of the candle and stared at her partner in the wax for the rest of the night. And we were there for hours. and she didn't move, you know? And it was like she couldn't move because half of herself was in the wax, you know? And it was so moving. I mean, I was so sad to have been somewhat responsible for a living being dying. But then to see this partner of the moth, they're just a moth, you know? What do they know about spiritual partnerships? A lot more than me, maybe. And she never moved, you know? She just stayed there with her partner the whole night. And then I didn't want to touch the candle because I didn't want to interrupt this, whatever was going on. And so we left them there. And then in the morning, her body had just fallen off the side of the candle, and she had died by the side of the glass, you know? And it was like they were one, you know? They were inseparable. And it was kind of beautiful. Anyway. I think when you get to a real spiritual partnership, it's like that. You know, it's like you are one being. You are a single being. And you're moving through the world, maybe with 4 different wings. Yeah. But a single heart.
We'll do a special Buddhist prayer called a mandala, and it's to give away all the good karma we made tonight and offer the good karma to all the people in Tucson who would like to have a nice partner. Okay.
Sashi Poki Jugshing Metok Tramri Ablingshi Nyende Kempadi Sangye Shingdu Mekte Uar Gidra Kunamda Shingla Druparshu Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami Gewadi Gewakun Sanam Yeshe Sok Sok Shin Sanam Yeshe Lejue Dampar Kuni Taparshu Thank you.
Thank you. Please come back tomorrow night and bring some friends if you'd like. And you'll notice that there are some verses we haven't gotten to, so bring your readings tomorrow, and there'll be extras for those of you who forgot. So thank you very much, and have a good night.